Hi everybody and welcome back to another video with me, Tom Dollimore, the current #1 FPL manager on the FPL Research Live Manager Rankings. I hope you've all enjoyed a nice international break. I've certainly enjoyed the break. It's nice to take your mind off FPL sometimes for a little bit. If we start with having a look at how my game week 3 went just quickly, seems like a long time ago now, but I had a fairly solid week. My game week 2 was a bit of a disaster, but game week 3 was fairly solid. Ended up on 50 points. Sanchez coming in strong again with a clean sheet, 6-pointer. Most of my points actually come from Bruno Fernandes captain, which was, I always said I was going to captain Bruno Fernandes, and it ended up being a good shout right at the end. Pedro Porro, now a bit of a concern on him. He was subbed at 70 minutes with Udogie back, so that's one to keep an eye on. It's probably the biggest concern in my team right now. But he come on with 4 points with the surprise defensive contributions, giving him an extra 2 points, so that was nice. And then the 3 Liverpool mids, I did say I didn't expect much from them in game week 3, and they lived up to that promise. So I mean, 3 3-pointers isn't bad, to be honest, but yeah. And Gyökeres as well. All of them playing each other wasn't ideal, but I was taking a long-term decision, which we'll come back to soon. Mateta as well, 5 points. Would have been nice to get more from a goal, but he got a bit excited, didn't he? Yellow card. No bonus points, but we'll take it. So yeah, 50 points. Fairly solid game week. Now, at this point in the season, I'm intentionally not mentioning my overall rank. I honestly don't even look at it until at least game week 10. I think just there's so much variance in this game that until that point in time it's completely irrelevant in my head. It's not until game week 10 that I'll actually start to think about where I am overall. But yeah, I mean, this season is even worse because you got all the new chips, so everyone using their chips at different times. Actually, your rank is quite irrelevant until game week 19, 20, when everyone's used the same chips. So, but yeah, I'll probably start looking at it anyway at game week 10, see where I am. But for now, I don't even think about it. So what have I been doing over the international break? So initially, I did do a bit of chip planning now. So I've got a bit of a clearer idea of what I'm going to be doing with chips. Still no completely fixed plan, but I've got a good idea of the options now, which I'll cover in a little bit and talk through my thought process on that. So that was very shortly after game week, the end of game week 3. I did a little bit of that while my brain was still in it. I like to, shortly after the end of a game week, I like to get an initial idea of what I'm going to be thinking about coming into the next game week, and then I switch off for a bit and then revisit when we've got all the information at the end. So international break, I've now literally not thought about my team or FPL at all for about a week. So I did that bit of chip planning, completely switched off for it, and I think that's important in the game. A lot of information processing in your head. There's lots of things always going, well, certainly is in mine. Lots of things going around in your head, lots of thinking through options and things that are happening, so much information that it's good to just switch off from it. Otherwise, you end up with getting that mental fatigue, and it certainly affects the way that I play the game. After too long thinking about it too much, you start to get tired of going through the same thought processes. So it's good to have that time to switch off. So yeah, I haven't thought about the game for a week until today. So how am I looking for game week 4? The transfers I made for game week 3, as I said, I could have gone for the Man United mids, and now I'd be in the situation that I wouldn't want to be in, where I don't really want them and I've got to think about selling them, and they're playing against Man City. So that's the reason I avoided that. Obviously, they did score some points, so yeah, I did miss out, but I like the situation we're in now. So I've got to be honest, the lineup pretty much with the team I've got at the minute, and I'll talk through transfer options in a minute, but the lineup I've got at the minute is Sanchez in goal against Brentford away. I think that's a fairly no-brainer over Dubravka against Liverpool. Then I've got the Spurs defenders, Romero and Porro. As I said before, I think Porro, yeah, I think he's probably the only player I'm going to look at transferring out potentially. If I do a transfer, you know, he was subbed earlier with Udogi back, and it is a bit of a concern. So we'll see. I've got to think about it still, but yeah, I'll go over transfer options in a second. I've got the Spurs defenders, Anderson against Leeds at home. He's been pretty solid, getting DEFCON points pretty consistently. So yeah, Leeds at home, that's a no-brainer for me. Mids, I've got the triple Liverpool midfield against Burnley away. It's nice to see. Obviously, there's a bit of doubt over minutes now with Isaac joining. That was kind of I did take that scenario into account when I made the transfers, but you know, obviously it would have been better for me if it didn't happen. But I think for this week we'll still be safe, or fairly safe for minutes. I don't think anyone's, or the majority of people are not expecting Isaac to start straight away, and if he does, I don't think Gakpo would be dropped instantly, so I think I'm pretty safe with Salah, Gakpo and Wirtz for this week for Liverpool. So we'll see how that decision pays off this week, or if it pays off. We've got Reinders, Man United at home. He's always going to be a fairly solid starter, pretty consistently against most teams, apart from the top teams, but you know, I don't consider Man United a top team at the minute, but I won't go into that. Yeah, Bruno Fernandes, again, he's pretty much always going to start. He can score points in so many different ways. He's against City away, but that just means DEFCON points to me. So, you know, he's always going to start. Then I've got Gyökeres up front against Nottingham Forest at home. Fairly strong fixture there. And Mateta against Sunderland at home. Super strong fixture for him, so I'm hoping to the points come raining in on that one this week. That would be nice. So yeah, that's bench. I've got obviously Dubravka. Then I got Murillo first bench. Arsenal away. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Esteve at Liverpool, and then obviously Mark Guéhi, who's gone to Chelsea now, so I'm a bit stuck with him. But I don't think we can expect him to get any minutes, or we don't really know what's going to happen, but I don't think anyone's expecting him to get major minutes, or certainly not now or in this week. So yeah, third bench for him. In terms of transfers, so yeah, I've done a lot of chip planning, and with the chips in the first half of the season, there's over 30,000 potential combinations of using the 4 chips. So I don't know about you, but I can't mentally process that many combinations and figure out which one's going to be the best. So I use the FPL review transfer solver and use the chip timing solver to give me some options to think about. Now again, I've said this before, you know, I use analytical models. This is one where I'll run the solver. It will give me a potential point scoring for each combination of chips, and I won't just look at the top one and say, yeah, that's it, that's my chip strategy, because there's so many nuances within what is being calculated, and there's so much variance in. So what I've actually done is I've done that, and then I've analysed the top 100 results, and I'll start thinking about, okay, which in all the possible chip combinations, which chip, which game week for each chip is coming up consistently. So what I've ended up on from that is wildcard and bench boost, I think, are the ones that you want to plan for most. So I think they're the 2 chips that go hand in hand the most, because setting up for a bench boost is quite hard with free transfers. So the using it in conjunction with the wildcard always lets you wildcard out of a bench boost team. So you build up to a bench boost team and then wildcard out of it, so you've not got your funds spread across so many players, or you wildcard into a bench boost and then you could have built up free transfers to then fix your team coming out of the bench boost setup. So yeah, and doing this analysis, it definitely showed that kind of theme. With the free hit, what I did learn from this is the free hit, planning for a free hit in any combination of potential plans. If I actually plan for it, the free hit's only worth about 3 points, which isn't a lot. So I'm kind of, this is where I'm at. I'm kind of planning for the wildcard bench boost and planning less so for the free hit and being more flexible with the free hit. And the triple captain is fairly, I mean, you can pretty much eyeball the triple captain. You know, you want the strongest player against in the strongest fixture. So the strongest triple captain in the first half of the season is Salah against Sunderland at home in 14. I kind of took that out of the equation to simplify it, and then looked at the combinations of chips for bench boost and wildcard, and the kind of two loose plans that I've ended up on is wildcard in 6 and potentially bench boost in 7. So I'll wildcard in 6, and the reason wildcard in 6 comes up is because the fixtures swing for Liverpool and City. So you pretty much, even if you don't wildcard, you want to switch Salah for Haaland in game week 6, and obviously wildcard in. I've got 3 Liverpool midfield, so wildcarding does a lot for me in 6, and I think it probably does a lot for most people because of that Salah to Haaland switch and not having to use the transfers to do it. So yeah, option 1 is wildcard in 6, bench boost in 7. Option 2 is, I did all the analysis that I just mentioned on this, but I think a lot of people have been floating around anyway, and the analysis that I did tallied up with what people are saying. So wildcard in 13, but in terms of the bench boost, it looks like it's a strong option to build up a team to bench boost in 11 or 12, and then wildcard out of that in 13. So just having a look at those two options. So 6, I think by game week 6, I'll have a good idea following the close of the transfer window of the sort of landscape of the game, potential minutes for all players, following all the recent transfers. I think I'll have a good idea of that to be able to build a reliable team in 6. And it obviously hits that Haaland to Salah to Haaland switch, and it sets me up nicely. Potentially carry a couple of transfers up to 6 if I can, and then I'll wildcard and have a couple of transfers to move forward from there. Obviously I got the bench boost in 7 with that potentially. That's not confirmed, but at this point in time, all I really need to know for my transfer this week is that it's potentially a wildcard in 6. Looking at the 13 option, so the other benefit of that is there's a big fixture swing again at that point, which is why it's fallen out in my analysis. But you also get the benefit that in game week 17 to 19 there's a potential blank, and game week 16 has a potential double. Now at this point in time, the potential for the double in 16 is very weak, so probably less than 10%. But we don't really know much about that yet. But by game week 13 we will know a lot more about that, so we'll be pretty sure of what's going to happen there. So if we build up to the wildcard, so we build up to the bench boost in 11 or 12, wildcard in 13, and then we'll know more about what's going to happen with the fixtures there to potentially free hit there, or even triple captain if there's a double. We'll see. But yeah, so game week 6 feels nice for a wildcard. Game week 13 has a lot of benefits. So what I've done with that information is then I'll say, okay, well, what transfers work for both of those options? And ultimately, when I run solves for transfers, as if I'm going to wildcard in 6 or as if I'm going to wildcard in 13, including the bench boost as well. So there's multiple scenarios I've run. I get 2 options pretty much, and it's just either roll the transfer this week, because I mean my team is fairly strong this week, or I do Pedro Porro to Munoz. Now the Pedro Porro to Munoz option I really like. There's obviously a bit of doubt over Pedro Porro at the minute, but it's not so major that I'm worried and I just want to get rid of him yet. So Yeah, it's a tough one, but I think I'm more like, if I was to do the move Porro to Munoz, I'm more likely to wildcard in 6, so it kind of sort of pushes me a bit more towards that, which I don't like. I like to keep my options open, and then I'll reassess everything with more information. But if I do the transfer, it pushes me more towards wildcard in 6, but I do like the move. He's got Sunderland at home. Yeah, I really like him for this week and the next few. So, but yeah, at the same time, Pedro Porro has an okay fixture with West Ham at home, and we would get a bit more information about what his situation is in terms of minutes. So I think I'm probably 75% rolling, 25% Pedro Porro to Munoz. Yeah, I think that's kind of everything. Oh, the only other thing I was going to mention actually is game week 4 for wildcard. So this game week for wildcard was in my analysis, it is coming up as an option, and my team is pretty strong for this week. So if you've got holes in your team this week, it probably is quite a good week to wildcard, especially if you've got a transfer or two built up, because you can then wildcard and plan for the Salah to Haaland switch in game week 6 with that extra transfer. So yeah, if you've got, I haven't got any holes in my team, and because I already got rid of Palmer, I didn't get Sarr. If you've got holes in your team, probably is a good week, because it's coming up for me as a good week, and my team's pretty good for this week. So yeah, one to think about. I think what I'd do if I was you, I would look at what I would wildcard this week, and because the downside of wildcarding this week is we don't have as much information as we would in game week 6 since the transfer deadline closed. So you're not going to know as much about potential minutes and lineups and stuff like that. I know we have a pretty good idea, but those extra couple of weeks will give us a ton more information. So that's the downside. So what I would do is I'd build a wildcard team, what you would build, and then I'd look at it and say, how sure am I about these players? And if you're fairly confident on all, or you're really confident on all of them and their minutes and play time and potential, then it could be a good week to wildcard. But for me, I'm pretty strong this week, so I'm not going to. It's probably going to be 6 or 13 at the minute. I think that's everything from me. Again, I hope you enjoyed the break. Welcome back, and I'll catch you in the next video. Good luck with your game week. Bye.